How are we doing, everybody? Welcome back into the SFS channel here. We are diving right into another draft here on Underdog Fantasy. As always, a 12-team half PPR format draft. As we're right in the heart of draft season right now, whether that's, rounding out the last couple of drafts of the year you've got, or whatever the case might be, we're getting kicked off right away here. I got into the lobby late here, so I was one of the final people to join today's draft. I was actually contemplating going Justin Jefferson there, but the way things fell, I'll be taking Austin Ekeler. He is my third player off the board for this season. So there we are, making our picks right away here very early in today's episode. If you guys are new around here, make sure to drop down, click that subscribe button, and turn the bell on so you're never late for an episode. I'll be dropping all sorts of fantasy content all season long, every single week, doing live Q&A videos, all kinds of great stuff. I'll be answering a ton of your guys' questions this year and a ton of awesome stuff. So make sure to stick around for that. Drop a like on today's video, of course, as we get started here. And let me know if you had that 1.4 draft position like we do in today's episode. Who are you taking there in today's half PPR format? Again, 12 teams in this league. I chose to go Austin Ekeler, but of course, there are a bunch of other directions you could have went. So I'm a bit surprised to see the wide receiver heaviness early here in the draft. We've got Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs both going as top 6 picks. Jamar Chase there at the 1-8 selection. I do like this Derrick Henry pick here at the 1-7. Once we finish out the first round, I will pop up the big draft screen so you guys can see. I think it's about 3 rounds above my head that are actually visible. So I'll scroll on over here. The final pick in the first round will be, yet to be decided, Davante Adams goes at the 1-11. Joe Mixon. So here we go. And you guys can take a look at that board. My strategy coming back here is to grab at least one position that is not a running back. If there is good running back value here at this, what will it be? The 2-8 or the 2-9, I will, of course, take a running back, again, if that value is there. However, what I don't want to do here is go super running back heavy and then get myself in a pickle and in a hole where I don't feel like I have elite level upside at other positions. So I'll be keeping my eye on guys like Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts. We'll see where they end up falling in today's video. That might be the direction we choose to go. That might not be. I'm actually going to pull up Underdog on my phone here so I can just draft via this device, and then you guys can look at that draft screen throughout the whole video. Don't worry, I'll be talking through some of my options at each pick, my thought processes, and all that good stuff. Of course, if you have any questions for me regarding your draft or your leagues, feel free to put that stuff in the comment section below. I'm happy to get back to you guys as soon as possible. Sometimes I miss stuff in my YouTube inbox, but I truly make an effort, and an honest one at that, to go down there and look at that stuff when I've got time. So make sure to leave those questions for me. Leave your comments, concerns about your leagues, trade scenarios, all that great stuff is welcome down in the comment section below. Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams, of course, I wanted Javonte. There he goes. Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, Leonard Fournette, A.J. Brown are the names available on the table. For me, I have to take Aaron Jones here. I think that he is kind of the last man in that tier, especially for a half PPR league. I think he's catching a whole lot of passes this season in Green Bay. No Davante Adams. They've got some promising names at the wide receiver position. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Allen Lazard can make a big play in that lineup this season, but for me, I really think that after him, you've got Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb hanging out there. James Conner a bit more down the board. I really want to take advantage of that Aaron Jones selection. Again, his numbers in the passing game increased dramatically without Davante out there. Aaron Rodgers actually came out and said that him and A.J. Dillon could each catch around 50 passes this season. Who knows if that'll actually come to fruition, but you love hearing the quarterback say that. That means he depends on those guys, he trusts them, and he's comfortable at the end of the day throwing them the rock a heavy dosage of time. So we'll see what ends up happening here. I did say I wanted to go for some upside. That would mean the wide receiver position. I could also dabble in the Kyle Pitts market here, which I would definitely not be opposed to doing. My other thought is potentially Mike Williams to get myself an incredibly high upside wide receiver. Though there goes Michael Pittman. Packers have a week 14 bye. So do the Falcons. They're different positions though, so not super worrisome for me. The Chargers here have a week 8 bye. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Kyle Pitts right here. I feel better about that draft pick. Give me a player who could potentially finish as the number one overall player at their respective position. To me, that's something that is very, very attractive in a draft. If you tell me someone has number one overall upside at their position group, clearly that's a player that you at least want to consider having around on your team. Nick Chubb goes there at the 3-5. Not my favorite pick in the world, especially in these best ball formats where upside is so important. It is not, at the end of the day, something that I'm resting the entire case for a draft pick on. Consistency still has some value to me. That's why guys like Keenan Allen still go in the third round of these formats. Even a DJ Moore, who's a guy that I think just has a nice floor with all the volume he sees. His ceiling, though, with that touchdown inconsistency, his career high is 4 TDs in a season. He still goes early because of the fact that he's getting peppered with 160-plus targets in a Sam Darnold offense last year. Now you bring in Baker Mayfield. That floor might become even more solidified. And to be honest, it wasn't all that dependable at times last season as well because those passes were so sporadic and inconsistent in terms of their quality. So all stuff to think about here. As far as my draft strategy coming back here, I'm really just going to have to wait and see who the best player available is. I will have to address wide receiver at least once here in these coming picks. The reason I wanted to kind of lock down those 2 core running backs is because that brings a lot of stress off of my plate here. Down the stretch of the draft board where I don't feel like I need to reach on a running back, I felt very good about the value that fell to me there at the 2-9 with Aaron Jones. And obviously, you don't want to just leave that sitting there, take that for granted. I feel pretty good about how things played out there. And then Kyle Pitts coming back, give me some good upside at a very valuable position that is very hard to find elite playmakers at. So we potentially may have drafted ourselves the tight end 1 this year. It'll depend how Travis Kelce performs. He looks like the clear number 1 option in the Kansas City passing game. But of course, 32 years of age, you never know how schematically that team will change this year. Obviously, no more Tyreek Hill. Travis is that safety blanket, but of course, things can change very quickly in the NFL. So Pitts for me is someone who should be peppered in volume this year. His size and speed combination is almost impossible to match, and there's a lot of stuff to like there. My 4th round stud that I'm always drafting, Jerry Judy, does not fall to me in this draft. Goes at the 4-3 there. Sad to see him go, but I own him in 50% of my leagues this year. Yes, that is an insanely large number. If he gets hurt or just happens to bust, I will be incredibly screwed. But I'm putting my money where my mouth is here and drafting a whole lot of him this season. So here we go. I'll read off some of the names for you guys that I am considering at this draft selection. Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, Justin Herbert, Breece Hall, Juju, Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson, Lamar are some of the top names available on the table. I'm honestly contemplating Hollywood Brown here with this pick. I want to get some sky-high upside, especially, man, those first 6 weeks. No DeAndre Hopkins, a certified suspension here. It's unlike, speculation with Alvin Kamara. It sounds like he's not going to have any discipline. Besides the fact, there goes Terry, who would have been my other selection there for a high upside piece. We'll take Hollywood, no second thoughts there. I would normally probably take Breece Hall this late. But with how the running back position group started out in this video, I'm going to pass on him here. If he happens to fall back to us at the top of the 5th round, I don't think I can stop myself at the 5-4 from taking him. However, wide receiver was yelling at me. There he goes at the 4-11. And that's a pretty dang good start for the first 4 rounds for that team at the 1-2. CMC, Breece Hall, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, all guys that have a really, really good upside for this year. I will scroll down here. As I started off today's video, I believe that I can leave 3 rounds uncovered in the lower right-hand corner of your screen with my head. So I'll try to be mindful of that as we navigate our way through today's draft. Coming back here, we're picking in just a couple selections. I'm thinking Rashad Bateman or Chris Godwin is where I'm going to end up going. Good news about Chris Godwin is that he's actually sounding like he might be healthy right off the bat this season. I could go Brandon Cooks as well. He has a very nice ceiling. I will go Chris Godwin here and give myself the potential later on if Tom Brady falls to me at a favorable draft position. His ADP usually lines up in the early 8th round, so we'll see. Because what are we picking towards? The end of the 8th round. So he likely won't be there, but I know for a fact I'm not drafting Lamar Jackson. So I wanted to stay away from that Rashad Bateman pick. It's hard to draft Bateman and Lamar just because their ADPs are so similar this year, unless you're picking up the turn and can get them back to back. But otherwise, we will have at least a shot, like I did mention, to draft Tom Brady and pair him with Chris Godwin for this season. So long time till we're picking again. We'll talk through some of the selections on the board here. Is Bateman still on the table? He is indeed. Kind of surprising to see him fall this far. Guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown going before him, that's a bit shocking to me. I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He finished off last season phenomenal, was the clear-cut fantasy football MVP down the stretch. No other fantasy player outscored him down the stretch of the fantasy playoffs last season. He was, the clear-cut best player to have in your lineups. You talk about guys like Jonathan Taylor, who were finished as the RB1 last season, had a massive round one opening week in fantasy, and then really struggled in the fantasy semifinals. Guys like Rex Burkhead were outscoring him. So I'm talking through stuff that you have not, or you have no idea what I'm talking about, just dismiss that. But it's always interesting to see the guys who shine the last 3 weeks of the season, the true league-winning picks and players, can kind of be all over the map there. But he has definitely earned himself at least 6th round draft capital. Late 5th round is respectable if he is your guy. Personally, I'm a big Jameson Williams guy, but don't know how effective he will be in his rookie season, especially with his rehab still being an ongoing process. So that might just be all the better for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Very, very surprised. Bateman fell all the way to the 6-3. I typically flip those draft positions and see if you can't just work some magic there. But here we go. We're not too far out here. I do see Drake London down the board calling my name. You could make the argument it's not the best idea in the world to have both Drake London and Kyle Pitts on the same team. However, I'm going to do something a little bit, icky to some of you either way. Some of you won't care. And to me, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I know that is something that some of you are probably thinking about. The other selection, an option for me here, is Allen Lazard. So I'm either going to be drafting both a Packers running back and wide receiver. Again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Green Bay does have a much more respectable offense. You've got a better quarterback, obviously. But Drake London, for me, I think it's certified that either one of those two players are going to hit. Kyle Pitts or Drake London, I think they could coexist. I see Kyle Pitts being kind of the do-it-all, stretch the field vertically, use that elite athleticism. Hopefully, let's cross our fingers, he can tap into some of that red zone utility. That's not the case. Drake London underneath, baby, catching a lot of short passes, being a menace out in space, a humongous frame. People are trying to tackle him left and right. He brings a lot to the table that I love to see as well. We'll scroll down here. Give you guys some more opportunity to see that draft board. Coming back here to start out the 7th round. We're cruising through today's draft, already almost halfway done. If Lazard is still there, I'll take him. Definitely not opposed to doing that. Josh Jacobs is on the table as well as a potential RB3. Wouldn't mind dabbling into that market space. I will say I don't want to double up on D-Hop and Hollywood. D-Hop for me gives me a lot of concerns with his health as we get into his 30s now, or at least the early stages of them. Christian Kirk could be a direction I go, and it looks like I might just get Allen Lazard with both of these players falling to me here. Dalton Schultz, that's a great value at the 6'10". Lazard, of course, goes. So here we are finding ourselves on the clock. I feel like I can make it work in this next turnaround at the running back position. So I'm going to go Christian Kirk here. We're going to go, 4 straight wide receivers, address some upside there, get myself a lot of opportunities to have really solid playmakers on this team with really high ceilings. I do think that Chris Godwin can hopefully give us a stabilized floor when he's in that lineup with Tampa Bay. Obviously, he led that team in targets per game while he was healthy last year. And, they're the number 1 passing offense in football. You've got a lot of stuff to consider with that team. Just take a quick peek and recap of our first 7 draft selections. I'm feeling pretty good, pretty confident in the way we've started today's video. I apologize. I'm just going to take a peek at some of these starts here, give you guys, for those. I apologize for those of you who wanted to see the picks going off the board. I'll go back down to that in a second. What I'm looking at right now is essentially just kind of who other players started out with. I really like the Derrick Henry and DeAndre Swift stack. We did that in an episode last week. They do share the same bye week, but it's a week 6 bye. It's a low stakes mid-season game. I do like the Keenan Allen draft pick. Lamar gives you some good upside. Not a huge fan of Jalen Waddle, though. Amari Cooper, a little bit of a risky receiver as well. The upside is evidently there, though. and could become a great draft value. Najee, Saquon, Josh Allen, Jerry, Judy, DK. That's a pretty dang good lineup as well. Rashad Bateman, Chris Olave. I like that draft room. Got some wide receiver 0. Not quite. We're a little light in the loafers, but we still do have Zeke, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs. They're loading up now. They're kind of drafting those dead zone running backs. Dameon Pierce is making the dead zone not so dead, but not my favorite territory. I prefer Dameon Pierce when I could get him in the 10-plus round territory. I like him still this year, but even if he is a workhorse in a bad offense, the ceiling can only be so high there. Of course, I am recording this the night after hearing the sad news about Brian Robinson Jr. I'll scroll back down now. That clearly raises Antonio Gibson's stock a little bit. As unfortunate as that is, I hate that situation. It was actually during one of my live drafts. I had a little space at a restaurant booked that we were all drafting on a fantasy board, live in person, like I said. It was super, super fun. And actually, Brian Robinson, early in the evening, was he was picked about a round ahead of his ADP, I'll say that. And then mid-draft, I get an alert from Adam Schefter because, of course, I need to stay updated on my information. So I have Schefter and Rappaport's tweets turned on for my Twitter. I've got sleeper notifications as well. Obviously, one of the better fantasy apps at relaying that information to its players. We're about to be on the clock here. I need to make a pick before I get too distracted. I could draft Rashad Penny and try and get that Seattle stack here. Man, Kenneth Walker's ADP is way down there. I don't know if I want to reach that far into the board. I'm thinking Kareem Hunt could be a possibility here, or I could just go with it for Penny. I mean, let's see. How far down realistically? It would be a reach, but I'm definitely going to get both of them. I'll go that route. We'll go Rashad Penny. Seattle is what? A week. I already made the choice, so no going back down. Week 11 bye. That should be fine. That is fine with our other two running backs. Kareem Hunt is a phenomenal value there, but having the opportunity to get both of those Seahawks running backs, unless someone totally snipes me here in the next 5 picks, it's totally possible. He is a bit down the board, but for this team, I will definitely take him over a Damian Harris, a Devin Singletary, even Cordell Patterson, Melvin Gordon. The one reason his ADP is slipping is because of the unavailability early in the year, but having that stack, having both of those players, handcuffing one another, both being very capable starters, I'm very comfortable doing that. I'm not too happy or excited to hear the Geno Smith news. Honestly, it might be better and more stable than Drew Lock, having a veteran quarterback who might not make nearly the same amount of dumb mistakes. But moving the football is still going to be a problem for that team and something that's going to be a headache for all DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett owners. I don't think I have a single share of Tyler Lockett this year, especially with Geno Smith now. You know, you can make the case with Drew Lock that he'll stretch the field, spread that ball out, and get that thing downfield. But, man, not a situation that I like to see at all. We have gotten ourselves at a spot here. We are kind of playing somewhat of a dangerous game. Wow. All right. So he takes Kenneth Walker and totally just snipes me. You know what? I'm going to turn around here. I was just about to mention, we're getting into a territory of the draft board where it is somewhat risky to not be having a quarterback entering into the 10th round. I would be talking about Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers territory there. Kenneth Walker did get sniped, so we're not going to be able to have that stack. Kind of sucks. Hindsight 2020, I'd rather have Kareem Hunt there. Good for this team because, you've potentially got that reliable low-end RB2 in the meantime, and then Kenneth Walker could supplant Rashad Penny and make that draft pick suck. So that's how things go here in fantasy football. You never know exactly who is or who isn't going to be available for you. Derek Carr is the pick that I was talking about, though, or I was contemplating going with. Had Walker not be there, which he wasn't, so we did take him a bit higher than ADP suggests. And man, Romeo Doubs' ADP is flying right now. It looks like he's going to be a 10th round pick here. Brian Robinson's ADP hasn't really moved too much. I really guess I can't expect it to. I am drafting this Monday afternoon, of course, so it'll be coming to you guys on Tuesday. You'll be seeing this episode, but at the time, it's Underdog's ADP, which I firmly believe is the best in the game right now. Unrealistic for my expectations to have it updating this fast, but it has not done so. So something at least mention there. But again, it hasn't even been 24 hours at the time of recording this video since that news broke. So it is what it is. It'll be interesting to see how far he falls, though. I actually just saw a tweet. Coach Ron Rivera says doctors are optimistic about Brian Robinson's recovery and his return this season, but it is a fluid situation. Okay, I realize I am reading that wrong. The first time I read that, I thought that meant like fluid inside of his body. It is a fluid situation, meaning it's adaptable. It could change. Team officials will talk to doctors later today and get a further update on his status. It sounds like the injury, of course, I'm sure all of you know what happened, was to his thigh and his lower leg. We're not going to get into too many details about, of course, what exactly happened, just because I'm sure it's a sensitive topic. So the moral of the story is it was an unfortunate event. And, of course, we hope B-Rob can come back. I was super excited about him. Big-time power back, a brilliant pass protector on third down, could pick up blitzes and just put up a brick wall and boom, you're caught in your tracks. Guy, again, a bulldozer on the goal line. And then, the open field, his straight line speed is very underrated. So he will run you over. He's like discount Derrick Henry, if you want to go there. 2 Alabama products. He is not Derrick Henry, but he is a freight train out moving in space. So it'll be worth my time to address the running back position at least once more within the next few rounds. It'll all depend who's there. We're kind of in the mindset and of the frame of, best player available. I'm really not sure who's going to be falling to us here. Romeo Doubs is still available. Tyler Boyd, Julio, Garrett Wilson, Josh Palmer. This next pick, if Doubs is available, is what it's going to end up being. There we go. We missed out on Lazard earlier, but the same case I made at the time of the Kyle Pitts draft selection was, if you can tell me you can finish as a number 1 player at your position, I will draft you. Similarly, to a lower extent with Romeo Doubs here, I will say he has no shot in the world of being the wide receiver 1. That's just totally absurd and unrealistic. But he is in an offense in a rare situation where he has a shot to finish as the number 1 wide receiver on his football team. So for the sake and purpose of having Allen Lazard, obviously Allen Lazard could finish as the Green Bay Packers wide receiver 1. Christian Watson is still in that conversation. He could finish as the Packers wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Romeo Doubs still has that opportunity and that chance, though. So, of course, I'll be drafting him here in 2022 as a high upside pick. There is, of course, risk, but I think that risk is at least worth it for the draft capital investment you're making. Jalen Tolbert is the next name I would love to snatch here, another high upside piece. Again, Julio Jones, not someone I'm super involved with this year. He is on the board. Garrett Wilson is there as well. Personally, I just don't trust Julio's health and availability. I think he'll have very good spurts. I think he'll have very big games this season, but I need you to be out there. And 10 games he's played each of the last 2 seasons? Thank you. I don't even have to make that choice because he's no longer there. We'll pencil in Jalen Tolbert at that position group. We're getting fairly deep at receiver now. We've got 6 of them on the roster, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, and 3 running backs here in the first 11 rounds. I don't want to deal with that. And some of you guys might be more optimistic on Julio than I am. I think I'm not going to call Julio washed because I believe he's still capable of producing respectable games when he's on the field and healthy. Josh Palmer goes there, another name I like to see. It's rumored his role in the LAC offense will be increasing this season and will have more involvement with the team. That, of course, is stuff you love to hear. He's a very talented player. Actually reminds me a lot of Keenan Allen. Could potentially refine his route tree and see some more playing time and more run in that offense. But Tolbert, you've got a situation where Michael Gallup's not going to be ready week 1. You've got a talented player in a pass-happy offense. They were 4th in team passing plays per game last year. Also the offense in the NFL that scored the most points in the league last season. I expect some regression. You lose talent in Amari Cooper. You lose a guy like Cedric Wilson. You're just going to have natural regression built into the season schedule, of course. But it's still a situation I expect to be very, very good and fruitful for fantasy receivers, in particular Jalen Tolbert and CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz as well. I think they all do a very effective job of producing in that offense. And for Tolbert, it could potentially be day 1. He could be a guy that walks out there and goes crazy and gives us a lot of value to our league. So very, very excited about that situation. The Brian Robinson thing, he's still hanging out here. ADP has him as the best available player, of course. I don't know when he's going to go or if he will go at all. I was actually live recording a video at the time of Gronk's retirement, and everyone in the draft was very up to date on their stuff. No one picked him, and I was very impressed with the group. I think someone actually got auto-picked Gronk, though, but no one actually made him as their selection. So I could be wrong. He may have just fell dead to the waivers, or there is no waivers in these best ball format drafts. So you get what I'm saying, though. Tua goes there at the 12-4. That's a pretty good value for a quarterback who could actually end up starting a lot of games for you. I think his floor is very high this season. Obviously, 2 phenomenal pass catchers. And while the Dolphins are reportedly shopping Mike Gesicki, still a nice playmaker to have. They do have Hunter Long coming back off of ACL surgery, a rookie from last season. Didn't get to see the field. Irv Smith, another name I like there. Justin Fields goes off the board, has had some nice preseason games. I worry for him. He has shown some nice abilities to throw the ball effectively and accurately, but what I'm really concerned about is Justin Fields' ability to be protected from Chicago's O-line. That gives me a lot of scare, a lot of worry. I could take... Nope, now I won't be able to take him. It's classic, guys. It happens every single time. What I will take is Tyler Algier here. Give myself some potential starting value at a position later down the line for this upcoming season. I was going to say I could take Trevor Lawrence here, a high upside quarterback too, insanely accurate, has all the physical gifts and traits you look for. And of course, he is snatched right from me, sniped by JPass88. If somehow, the off chance that you're watching today's video, congratulations, you made me alter my draft strategy. So we have a very balanced team today, I would say. If you look at the color bars beneath each profile here on Underdog Fantasy, you can get a positional breakdown of the percentages of what your team ownership is. The purple represents quarterbacks, the orange wide receivers, the tealish, greenish, whatever you want to call that color, seaweed. I don't know what you want to consider it. That is the running back position, and then blue is tight end. So you can see the small blue and purple markers mean I have one quarterback and one tight end each. We are pretty wide receiver heavy after not starting with one through the first 2 rounds. And running back is our next most owned group. We have 4 players there. No, I cannot calculate percentages based off of this bar. I just remember we've only picked 4. So I'm not nearly that... I don't have a photogenic memory. Yeah, B-Rob, this is interesting. Still hanging out there. His ADP has surpassed us by 14 draft picks over an entire round here. We are coming up on our next selection. It is tempting because they say that he might come back at some point this season, but I don't know if now is the time to do so. Jameis is a really interesting quarterback to have as my number 2 option. Christian Watson's hanging out here, but we got Dubs. Don't know if I want 2 rookie Packers on the same roster. It's looking like Jameis might just be the pick for me. Could take Albert O as a sneaky tight end too. That wouldn't be a terrible idea. There are some other options later here down the board. Plenty of receivers, so I don't really want to over-leverage myself there. We'll take Jameis. I hope to God he has a different bye week than Derek Carr. The Raiders are, week 6, I want to say? I'm going to have to check that out. Otherwise, I could find myself in a heap of trouble. The Saints should be, week 14. Let's just pop this down here. That'll be easiest. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We are on the money with both of them. If you update the draft cheat sheet enough times that we have on sizzlefantasy.com for all access pass members who get in-season lineup advice and the draft guides throughout the season, SFS Gold members as well have access to that on a monthly basis. Once I've updated that, a couple of times, those bye weeks are pretty drilled into my memory and it's hard to forget them. Of course, if you guys want some in-season lineup advice this year, I've got you covered all season long. If you want to sign up and draft some leagues with me, some in-season things here on Underdog Fantasy, just use promo code SFS when you sign up and deposit $10 or more. If you just put $10 in, they're going to double your money, so you have 20 to play with. And you'll get the all-access pass for the in-season lineup advice free. I'll add you as a friend on our Discord server, and you can DM me your questions and concerns about your team, trade scenarios all day long. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I possibly can, which is basically every single time within the same day, sometimes within a few minutes, sometimes a couple of hours. Depends on what I've got going on in my life, but it is my promise to you that if you DM me as an All Access Pass member, I will respond to your questions on that Discord app. So along with that comes our in-season lineup advice. We got positional rankings, or excuse me, our in-season weekly positional rankings, not lineup advice. Yes, you get that as well, but we just talked about that. That's going to be broken down rankings, numeric rankings of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, defenses, every single week for your lineups, telling you who is the best option to start for half PPR scoring. But of course, if you're playing in a different scoring format, I use half PPR so I can give you guys a balanced assessment of each position group. But if you have questions, it doesn't hurt just to shoot me a text on that Discord app, and I'll clarify things for you. I'll give you the answers you need and get you set up for your weeks, and hopefully things play out in a favorable direction. Obviously, I'm hoping to help you guys haul in those fantasy trophies for this season and get the job done at the end of the day for this year. So coming up on round 14 here, we've got just 5 draft picks left to make in today's video. I will need to address tight end at least one more time. I may address quarterback once more as well. Depends how the value is falling here. I could end up with myself drafting another running back. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to walk into the season with 5 players at that position group. Again, I'm hoping that because of the optimism of these reports that B-Rob comes back at some point this season. I don't know if he'll get drafted or not until probably the last couple of rounds. This is my first Underdog draft since that news broke. I don't know if I'm going to be the team that ends up picking him here. I'll consider him. I'll think about it. But we'll see. Well, let's put it that way. We'll see. Might get my first share of Amir White here. I could draft Tyron Davis-Price. I have enough shares of him. I do like Amir White, though. So they cut Kenyon Drake in Las Vegas, a guy who was really a nice pass catcher, could do some things out of the backfield for them. And now rookie Amir White looks like the clear-cut number 2 option for that offense. I don't know if he'll be super involved when Jacobs is healthy, but with both Tyron Davis-Price and Amir White, what you're hoping for, or not hoping for, of course, because you don't want players getting injured, but what this situational value presents you the opportunity for is if that starter were to get hurt or have COVID or something prevents them from being available in the lineup each week, is that player could be a relevant fantasy piece and give you legitimate lineup value on a weekly basis. So Amir White for me is that guy. He's big, he's physical, he's a truck out in space. He can move very, very quickly. His straight line speed is phenomenal, even better than James Cook. We're on the board here. Got to make a quick pick on the fly. We've got week 14 bye at the tight end position for, man, do I double down here? Do I take another running? You know what? I might just do it. We're going Tyron Davis-Price. We're getting both of them. It worked out in such a way that I feel comfortable doing that. I like my receiver room. The receivers on the board aren't calling my name right now. The quarterbacks aren't either. The tight ends don't feel like a necessity right now with Kyle Pitts. Really, we're just hoping to draft a bye week replacement. What I was saying, though, is that Amir White is someone who has obvious and evident goal line utility. His passing game involvement this preseason has been not, he's no Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones out of the backfield catching passes, but it has been better than what I expected, good enough that they thought they could cut ties with a guy like Kenyon Drake. So I'm optimistic for what he could do in a starting level role and situation. Again, I don't think he's going to supplant Josh Jacobs. I don't think he's overtaking the number 1 spot on this team, but he could legitimately see some opportunity in this offense. The same thing for San Francisco with Tyron Davis-Price here. What you're hoping for is that when he gets out there on the field, that he just crushes, he lives up to the draft value. Now, we do have some kind of scary and conflicting reporting here. Obviously, Trey Sermon was a huge disaster for fantasy drafters last year. He was a guy who was going as a fairly, like an 8th round pick last season. We were expecting him to be the lead back. Raheem Mostert was slated as the lead back for the opener. And then, of course, has the injury right away, misses the entirety of the season. And then 6th round pick Elijah Mitchell takes over. And never looked back. He did miss 6 games, so I guess he did get lucky that no one was good enough to take his starting job. But if something were to happen to him this season, a smaller running back who's a little bit more prone to getting nicked, Tyron Davis-Price could legitimately come over and take that starting role away from him. He is a bruiser. He is a guy who has trimmed up a lot since his college days as well at LSU. He is in a lot better shape. But the conflicting reporting comes in here when you talk about Trey Sermon. You've heard guys like John Lynch, the team's general manager, who said that Trey Sermon has been one of the better players in the entirety of San Francisco training camp. So do you start putting a little bit more investment into a guy like Trey Sermon? Do you trust him again this season? Do you give him the opportunity to burn you not only once but twice? It's muddy waters here in San Francisco. It's been, I believe, either 5 or 6 straight seasons of having a different leading rusher in a row. So that's bad news for Elijah Mitchell. That's good news for Trey Sermon and Tyron Davis-Price. Enthusiasts like myself, I do like to believe that they are better pure workhorse running backs than Elijah Mitchell, who is, again, a very talented and very nice player, but gives a little bit more spice and flair to the situation for sure. Whoever the lead back is should absolutely crush that physicality, the offensive line play, just the structure of that West Coast offense, their power run game, even their zone concepts are lethal as well. Basically everything is to like there in that San Francisco organization. B-Rob still hanging out, nearly 60 picks below his ADP. His ADP is the 126 overall selection. The top player on the board is Corey Davis, according to ADP, at 182.9. Why we would be drafting Corey Davis, I'm not really sure. That is definitely not the direction that this team is going, but we will see here. Might be time for the tight end 2 position to be addressed here. Tennessee has a week 6 bye. I could draft Austin Hooper here, who has a fair shot to do some damage in this offense. I think that might be the direction I go. The wide receiver room is looking a bit bleak. Quarterbacks possibly on the turn here. Get my 3rd quarterback for this team. Oh man, that was a mistake. We'll say that. What just happened was Isaiah Likely's ADP was 1 below Austin Hooper, and there's this handy draft feature on Underdog. I'm not terribly upset about it or anything, as long as their bye weeks don't line up, which the Ravens, I don't believe, do. I think they're a week 10 bye team. So you just slide to draft the player, and he was right below Austin Hooper, and I look up at the camera and I slide, and my thumb was not in the right place. We'll just put it that way. So maybe we draft a 3rd tight end for today's video. You never know. You never know what'll happen. I don't really want to waste a draft pick redoing that. We'll see what happens. I was thinking about drafting Desean Watson here. Not that I love that pick. It would be kind of a second wasted roster space for, 12 weeks of the season. He would solely be a play that you're hoping comes back and crushes it when he hits the field. Obviously, not a fan of the things he did off the field, or did allegedly, of course, but he saw fairly significant discipline for that. So there's obviously got to be some merit there. I could draft him again. What was it? 11-game suspension, comes back after the bye or something to play the Texans week 12 or 13. I forget the exact details. Man, and now we're left with Logan Thomas here, a week 14 bye player as well. We'll just go Desean. Just gives our quarterback room a bit more ceiling. That really sucked. I was hoping for Hooper there at the 16-9. Yeah, that was quite the blunder there. It is what it is. Kind of set us back a little bit in terms of our depth on the bench here. We've got great quarterback depth, of course. Derek Carr. Who was our 2nd quarterback pick? I forget already. Jameis, of course. And now Desean Watson. Again, some more ceiling. Browns have a week 9 bye, which is, of course, where Cleveland will be affected by that. So it must be week 12 that he'll play the Texans. We've got 1 pick to go here for today. Let's pop down, take a peek at the team. We will do a quick recap before I head on out of today's video. Address the position rooms. I will, let's say this. I will probably draft another tight end. We'll see. There are some options. Honestly, none of them really look that good. So the moral of the story is that in week 14, we are going to just pray to God that Isaiah Likely scores a touchdown or something. I could always draft a Kyle Rudolph. He, of course, has the potential. Week 11 bye, he could score. Really, aside from that, we're looking at Mo Alley Cox, who shares a bye week with Kyle Pitts. Kind of defeats the point and the purpose, because we're hoping that Kyle Pitts could be the tight end 1 this year and really alleviate the need for us to address that position anywhere else. So We might do it. Kyle Rudolph seems like the favorite candidate to get that job, that position for our final roster spot today. I will be recording another draft right after this video, so stay tuned. If you're watching this on Tuesday when it comes out, stay tuned for Wednesday. I'll be posting another draft episode, and then we'll have our last summer rankings come out here. Our preseason rankings, our draft rankings, our final draft ranking installment, and then, getting kicked off here with some week 1 rankings, getting that stuff ready for you guys. Of course, all the information you need to crush your leagues. Again, check out sizzlefantasy.com. So the links in the description of today's video. Check out Underdog Fantasy if you want to do drafts just like this one. Don't gotta manage your team or nothing. Draft your lineup, pick your players, of course, and then the computer puts forth your best lineup possible every single game. So check all that stuff out. Again, all the links are in the description of today's video. Check out our social media accounts. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that great stuff. And again, sizzlefantasy.com has those draft guides. When you sign up with code SFS on Underdog, I get email reports every single day now of who signed up. So I'll grant your email address access to an account of the All Access Pass. You'll have everything you need this season until this coming Super Bowl in February. Late 18th round pick here. What are we looking at? Could it be Cam Brate? Could it be Kyle Rudolph? I kind of like me some Kyle Rudolph, I'll be honest. Cam Brate's ADP is a bit higher. I think they're both kind of interchangeable red zone targets. My other options are not very phenomenal. So we'll go that direction. And that'll conclude today's draft. We'll get you hooked up here with a quick recap. Our projection is fairly low today, of course, the Desean Watson pick. He's not going to be projected too many points, missing all those games. And, of course, these last 2 tight ends didn't do us much of a favor there. In that position room. So here we go. 1 pick to go. Here you can see the QBs for today. Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, Desean Watson. No overlapping bye weeks there. Running back, we've got Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Rashad Penny. Feeling very good about that top 3. And then we've got some young upside at the rookie positions for that running back room. Amir White, Tyler Algier, Tyron Davis-Price. All rookies there, feeling pretty good about that. We do have a couple of week 14 buys in that position group, but that is it for overlap there. We do have a healthy amount of bye week overlap at the wide receiver position with Christian Kirk and Chris Godwin being out in week 11. Week 14 will be without Drake London and Romeo Doubs. And then is that it for that room? That is. We do have Hollywood Brown, Chris Godwin, Drake London, Christian Kirk, Romeo Doubs, and Jalen Tolbert, though. Feeling very good about the ceiling of that room. And then week 14 again with Kyle Pitts, week 10, Isaiah Likely, and week 11, Kyle Rudolph. Likely has a really good ceiling, but in order for us to tap into that, something might have to happen to Mark Andrews, and I would be devastated to see that. I have Mark Andrews in a lot of leagues, and my Dynasty League as well. I am a huge fan of him, and obviously never want to see players get injured. So, yeah, that'll conclude today's video, of course. Remember to leave a like on today's episode before you head on out, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.